What's going on, everybody? It's so great to have you. I learned last night that this is the first time the four of you have actually been in the same room for a while. It's just kind of the nature of your job, right? I think later on that we're going to talk a little bit about a leprechaun suit and a pan that fell on Tom's head, the history of Dave knowing Tom and his wife, and of course the fact that the two of you are brothers. But I'm so excited to have you guys here today. And we got a lot that we're going to cover, but I think most importantly, what I have loved in learning about you guys and working with you guys is how you are humanizing IT. And I know we're going to get into the details of that, but how a dental practice has looked at IT, and I think more importantly, how you guys have been able to serve those that you're working with and let them know that it's more than just your malware or your cybersecurity or your equipment. It really is about taking care of people. So I'm excited to hear your story.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us. Appreciate being here.
What exactly is it that you do at Medix IT?
Oh, it depends on the day. I mean, if Chris had his way, I wouldn't be touching anything technical anymore, but
There's some truth to that.
I still really enjoy it. I got my start being technical, and so it's hard to let that go. But, we've transformed so much, and a lot of what I do is, strategic, working with, our larger clients and working on some of the larger projects as far as guiding the strategy and kind of just sharing knowledge from being a part of it. So, my day-to-day could vary quite a bit, but I still like, doing the technical stuff, but most of the time spent talking to potential clients and just working on bigger things. So
love it. In code, you're the CEO of the organization.
Yes.
And definitely one of the founders.
Yes. The founder. So I can get kind of long-winded with the story, but it's kind of funny, depending on what you might think of me differently after this. But one of my good friend's moms was a 2-location periodontal practice office manager, and she and I were close. Her mom and I, Sharon, were close because we had a common love for Hall & Oates. And I don't think any of her daughter Megan's friends like Hall & Oates as much, so that was our common bond. But they're getting ready to switch from a Mac-based PMS to a PC-based, and they got a quote from their dental supply company for computers. So I went and took a look at that, fell down dramatically because it was so high for what they were getting, and we ended up putting in better computers, saving Doctor about $25,000 between the 2 locations. He took an unplanned vacation because he'd already budgeted that money, and then we realized that there was a business there. And that was the start of it over 20 years ago, and we've just kind of evolved from there. Our focus was local, regional, and now national.
Awesome. I know we're going to get into that. I'm excited to hear more about that story. You've got 2 brothers to your right here, as people will notice, Chris and Eric. Good to have you guys.
It's great to be here.
And maybe we'll get into some childhood stories. But Chris, just a little bit about your background, what you do at Medix, and what this journey's been like for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I got started here at Medix it's been about a little over 18 years ago, and I was working at another MSP in the area, and it was my first gig, my real job out of college, and as most college graduates are always looking for something a little bit more. And so I saw an ad in the paper somewhere I think it was paper back in the day, about a job and for another IT position. So I went and applied, and lo and behold, it was Mr. Tirana's over here and his company. I think at the time it was just Tom and another
2 guys.
2 guys. It was 2 guys. Yeah.
Tom and 2 guys.
Tom and 2 guys. I think was that the name of the company?
Yes.
Yeah. No. So I got there, got the gig, and got started there as just kind of a jack of all trades, MacGyver technician. Over the years, kind of grown into a more of a leadership role, and today I'm currently the COO at Medix. What that means, kind of like Tom, it depends on the day, but kind of oversee each department, make sure their hurdles or roadblocks, or I can help solve those problems for them, and they can proceed with their day as smooth as possible. Different fire every day, and day in, day out. It's kind of what I do.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then Eric, so what's your story? Was it seeing what he was doing, or how did you land here?
Yeah, we'll get into that probably more later, but essentially I follow Chris wherever he goes. So when he left the old company that we were both working at, I got curious of where he went to, and through that journey, I worked at an MSP as well. 5 years prior to being at Medix. Been with Medix now for a little over 16 years. So I've been in the dental space for 16 years, which is love the community. But met Tom through Chris joining Medix, and I was really just intrigued with what he was doing with it, and I loved that it was a small company. I loved Tom's vision that he had of just wanting to help the dental community, seeing a need where there just wasn't a more, not holistic, but just more just human. Like we use it more now. We didn't back then, but like what we were doing was humanizing with people. Like we just wanted to educate. We just wanted to share the knowledge that we were learning. And I love that concept. And he came to me about a year after Chris started and just said, hey, I want to take this thing further. I want to grow. I want to get our message out to more dental practices. And I think you'd be a good fit to help lead the charge of that. And I got excited. I talked to my wife, and it was kind of a big move at the time. I was at a, like a 7-location larger company, and it's just like, all right, I'm going to go work for them. I'm going to be employee number 5, or I think at the time it was. And it was kind of a big decision. And just Tom really is what brought that home for me. He was a genuine person then, and he hasn't changed this journey. And that's what I love about Tom, is just he is who he is, and he's always been that way. And that's why I've also stayed here. It's just it's become a family, even though it is.
Now, there's a point that's being overlooked, is that the company they came from, they're working for their uncle. And during Chris's tenure, he basically went from being an entry-level technician to being in a role higher than his uncle at that other company. So there was one funny story, which if you guys don't mind me sharing.
Feel free.
We hired a technician that happened to be at the company they used to work at. And so their uncle called Chris, as kind of upset that they was harvesting technicians. And Chris said, well, if you kept your employees happier, then maybe they wouldn't leave. That's how I remember it. Maybe that wasn't it.
I'm just thinking now once this gets out in the world here,
I'm glad we're over that now, and we're all past that, and we're welcome back.
I'm sure holidays were interesting for a little bit, but
we're good there. Yeah.
But it's a funny story. It also just goes to show like Chris's talent. When he joined the team, and I'm not trying to make it sound like I had an ego, but I thought I was pretty smart. And shortly after Chris joined, I realized that he's smarter than I am, and he's still probably our strongest technical brain. We have a lot of smart people, and a lot of them are smarter than I am, but Chris is still the chief technical brain.
Chief technical brain.
Chief technical, the CTV.
Can I change my title? All right.
Eric, what's it been like to work with Chris? Because you hear stories.
Yeah.
I think over the years, different businesses, some family members can make the best of it and figure out a way. Obviously, you guys have. What's it been like?
It's been, oddly enough, you see it a lot in dental, right? You see a lot of the family coming in, or husband, wife, office manager, doctor type scenarios. So that was interesting coming into dental. But in our world, it's been great. I mean, from childhood, a paper route, to high school at a print shop, to enterprise rent a car in college. I've been following him essentially everywhere. But through that, and especially specifically at Medix, is we're family, so we know what buttons to push at times. We avoid those, but we also we can agree to disagree, and that's what I think's worked well for us. Is that we've, in every situation we haven't maybe seen eye to eye, we've been able to talk through it. You might need a few hours or a day or two to let the dust settle. Let the dust settle. But the great thing about us, I think, is a lot of times we can come back to each other and talk through it. And that's what's made it successful for us, and especially with us working in different departments, with me being kind of on the sales business development side and him being on the technical side, it really works well because we know each other very well from being brothers, and also just working together throughout almost essentially our entire lives. And we have found a good way to utilize that to not only help each other but help our teams that we work with.
Anybody ever get you guys mixed up? These two get mixed up?
Oh boy!
My first few.
Somebody like call and ask for like the tech brain, and they get you
from day one.
Lots of stories. Early on, there was a partner of ours that called me Chris for like a year. I never corrected him until one day they wanted me to solve something technical, and I was just like, "That's my brother."
Call out. Go to the
I knew enough to be dangerous, but once it got like nitty gritty, I had to come clean. I was like, this whole time I should have corrected you a while ago, but I'm not Chris.
He's more technical than he likes to admit.
He is.
I rubbed off on him.
I'm his brother Eric. Like, oh my God, you look so much alike. Like, I don't really think we do, but everyone says
ask Ash about this too.
I just tell everyone, I'm the one with the grays, but I am younger. But every gray hair is for every happy partner we've had at Medix since I started. That's why I have so many of them.
That's a lot of happy partners.
Yeah, a lot of happiness. Yeah.
They have an incredible mother, by the way.
Incredible what?
Mother.
This is true. This is true.
And so every time I've had the opportunity to see her, I always thank her for these guys, because this company wouldn't be a fraction of what it is without them. And very thankful for them, very thankful for their mother, who it just,
Yeah, let's go. I want to shout out Karen Jess Young right here, wherever you're at. You made this possible. Thank you. I'd like to give you just a little taste of her, and then we'll move on. But because she's an amazing woman. But to this day, she even instills today you have a chance. You can wake up. This can be a good day or it can be a great day, and the choice is yours. Make it a great day. And I've embraced that. I've been using that for a couple of decades, but because she's always said that to me. Hey, Eric, today you can make today a good day or a great day, and the choice is yours. You got to understand that. So make it a great day. And I use that all the time because I love it and I believe in it. And it's true if you really think about it. So if you have anything to take away from today, you have a choice today to make it a good or a great day. Make it a great day.
Absolutely.
Oh, this is going to be.
you just got a big dose of Eric.
Well, and in the spirit of family, right? So Dave is family as a part of the Medix family, but you two have known each other for a while. I mean, Dave, let everybody know a little bit about yourself and what you do here, but most importantly, how did you get on this train?
Oh, I mean, how far back do you want to start? So
wherever you want to start.
I feel like my entire life journey, there's been little drops of kind of hints as to where I was supposed to end up, which has been a lot of fun. But I've known actually Tom's lovely bride since we were little children. We went to a little Catholic school back in Moline, Illinois together. And also my wife went to the same school. So it's just kind of wild that I've known Tom so long, Tom's wife so long, of course, my wife so long. I just feel like all these connections that I still get to have today have been cultivated from a long time ago. So an early age, but so my, how did I even get here? My professional career, I started an IT company, and I'm going to take it back here for Tom too. I started an IT company back in 2004, and Tom met with me and at the time my other two business partners, just to kind of, Tom's big question back then was, who is your target market? Who's your target market going to be? What's your niche? And of course, being young and dumb, I said everybody. We're going after the world. And I think at some point you kind of have to have that naive mentality entering into business. Otherwise, nobody would do it because you realize what it comes with once you understand. But getting to hear that from Tom, even though he said it back then, it really started to ring true later in my career. So I ran my own IT company with another business partner for actually 17 years. And I was the only field guy for our company for probably 13, 14 years. And then we hired another person. But all of that gave me the experience and the technical aptitude to be able to then transition. Once I sold my shares of that business, I was able to officially just kind of slot in to the growth journey that was at Medix. And that was terrifying, shaping, and humbling all at the same time. And I didn't know how badly I needed a team. So I had built my own team at my own business, but it was almost like I got to take the next step, by coming to Medix, because Medix's growth journey was growing beyond what my own company really had done. So that was, again, humbling, but I think when you're stretched, you feel like you finally get to see what you could be made of. And so I feel like those things have helped to craft me into, what I needed to be at this company. So it's kind of maybe deeper than you were wanting to go, but that's awesome. That's where my heart's at.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot of fun. So getting to work with these guys, has been a riot. I feel like we've been able to just be real with each other. And I think that's what sets us apart too as a company, is we're not just real with each other, we're real with our partners too. And so that makes the world go round.
And what is some of the work that you're doing now when you work specifically with the practices and the customers and partners and things like that?
Officially, my title is Director of Partner Engagement. Now, what that truly means on a day-to-day basis may not be depicted in my title. But I would say, I have a number of accounts that I manage. I'm on the leadership team, the culture committee, we're doing a lot of wonderful things internally, not only to build the team culture, but just to help that to be seen beyond our borders. So to be seen beyond, just the internal team. So I think if I was to say I'd do anything, I hope that I am a part of cultivating that message to not just internal, but external partners.
Piece of Dave is, Dave's incredible, and so we've been very blessed with him. When he joined the team, we kind of put him in all kinds of roles because we needed somebody with some experience to fill these critical spots. But, as you know, in our business, titles aren't necessarily everything, and so we do a lot of everything. And, if we had like a title for Dave, it would probably be Chief Relationship Officer.
Absolutely.
Because Dave has just, he's a genuine person and he builds relationships, whether it's potential clients or just someone in the industry, or he has friendships with people in the industry, nothing related to business, but he's met them through, and it always amazes me. He's like, oh yeah, I was talking to such and such person. I'm like, you talk to them on a regular basis? Like, yeah, we're friends. And I was like, yeah, Dave's just incredible. He's been a huge addition to the team. And a funny story, when Dave was owning his own company, my wife just kept saying, you need to bring Dave on the team. I'm like, I can't pull Dave from his own company to come work with us. And she's like, yeah, Dave, and she kept saying it. And, as God's plan would have it, he did end up joining, and it's been amazing and wonderful.
That's been a blessing for sure. I was going to ask you, John, can you ask me questions and I'm going to have Dave answer them for me? So, and then just edit it out, and then that makes
Yeah,
it fun.
I think, and maybe we'll do vice versa. We'll have Dave, ask Chris some questions. And we can,
I've got a few questions
kind of
for
get.
Chris.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
We're gonna definitely see a side of everybody today, which I love. I wanted to come back to you, Tom. On the topic of culture, relationship, and all of that, as we kind of lower this wall, I think you could say, on IT, which is one of the things I want to really accomplish today. Is I want people, like I said, to see and understand who you guys are as a company, and kind of demystify IT, which you guys do more than that, right? I think that's one of the things you told me yesterday. It's a lot more than just the technical things that you help with. But when you look back at the first year of starting this company, what was that like from your perspective? It's you're at a point now where you can look back, but like take us back there a little bit of what it was like that first year.
Well, yeah, so the technical stuff was, I'd been doing it for a long time, so I was really comfortable with that. But there were some aspects of dentistry that were new to me, and I made some mistakes. So, for example, I was putting a monitor mount on a wall at a dental practice in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Never done that before. Figured it wasn't that hard. Used the stud finder. Thought I found the stud, and screwed it in. I'm like, yeah, this is good. And I started shaking it, and all of a sudden, it started falling down. Luckily, the stud was very close, so I was able to move the mount without showing the holes. But that could have been disastrous. So I ended up learning quite a bit about construction and wiring, and that was probably the biggest initial blast of learning. But I really learned how integrated technology is to the practice. Even back then, there was still paper based, but for us it was just even though I was doing IT and technical, it was about the relationships. And one of the things I like to try to share with our team is that even though we're solving a technical problem, we are helping them relax, because usually they're in the middle of something, they're anxious, they want to get it solved, this is interrupting their day. It's not just fixing the technical problem, but it's like helping them relax and get their mind off of it, so that kind of de-escalate the frustration and stress, which is really important. And I also joke too is that when people are calling us, they're not excited to call IT. They're not excited to get support. Yeah. Just like nobody's excited to go to the dentist. I'm sure there's some people that are, but typically that's not the case. So for us, it's just really making sure everybody's taken care of, and that's the thing that I've tried to drive home as we've grown is that, we're really in the people business. The technology is just, our trade, but really it's taking care of people.
Well, and as you all know, it's one of those services, like you mentioned, that people are not, they're very comfortable up front to say, I have no idea what I'm doing here. They put a lot on all of you. I mean, if you think about a lot of businesses, there obviously are people out there that, for whatever it's worth, understand it a little bit so they can kind of gum up the situation. But when I think of IT and the work that you do, it's people coming to you and saying, I got my hands up, I have no idea how to do this, and they put everything on your shoulders. What was that like for you to not only figure that out, but then also start to build a company where you had to, you recognize that, okay, if you're going to scale and grow this business, that's going to be a lot of what you're going to have to do.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll admit I was completely naive about business when I was starting out. So, but I did learn really fast. Like, I slept in dental practices or half slept, worked overnight, to make sure that they were up the next day in a server transition or critical issues. Because, I had one doctor early on that just explained, like, if I'm not able to practice dentistry for a day, this is how much it costs me. That number's gone up quite a bit since then, over 20 years ago. So I just realized that, our role, is hypercritical. And so, yeah, and unfortunately, my wife came with me and she had to sleep at a dental practice one night that I worked all night at. But yeah, I just, learn how deep it ties into everything they do.
So this question is for Chris, but I'm going to have Dave answer for you.
That's great.
I think watermelon.
So,
right.
so Chris/Dave, when you started here, what was your first 6 months to year like? When you can think back of coming on board, especially the situation that you came from with your uncle and having to help Tom and be an expertise, an expert in that space. Like, what was it like?
Well, John, I'm glad you asked.
I was waiting for that.
Beautiful.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, like Eric mentioned earlier, right? We were the MSP that we were at before was larger, multiple locations.
Can you define MSP?
Yeah, so MSP stands for Managed Service Provider. So just it's that company that services small to large businesses that don't have their own IT department, basically.
Okay.
So yeah, Managed Service Provider, refer to it as MSP. So yeah, coming from there, larger, kind of the Eric same thing. It's like, man, what do I expect from going to work for a IT company? There's only 2 other people there. But so yeah, I mean, it was a learning experience for sure. I mean, it was, I had a set of responsibilities at this other company, basically day in, day out. Moving over to Medix, it's, again, you never know what's going to happen that day. Just fix it. You'll solve the problem. And I enjoy that. I mean, that's why I do. That's why I love IT. That's why I've gotten to do the things that I do, is because I like solving problems. They went from solving technical problems to people problems now, but it's changed over the years. But the first 6 months was awesome. I mean, it was just different than what I was doing before, and it actually allowed me to do what I love more, is solving those problems. Because at the previous position, again, it was kind of a set thing, a lot of backup stuff, which in the industry is what you kind of do when you first get started. A lot of you solve backup problems, make sure they're running, things like that. I was actually getting to solve real problems, and it was just different and very enjoyable for me. So, I don't know if there was really any challenges, because coming to Medix gave me the opportunity to do what I wanted to do. If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you too, there's a lot of businesses that people start as entrepreneurs, and there's a little bit of guesswork as if there's going to be product market fit, right? Like, you're going to bring something to the marketplace, and are people going to need it? Is there going to be a demand? Did you see early on, once you started this thing, that even though you need to kind of figure out the logistics of it, that like there was a lot of demand? Were you concerned about that?
No, I was naive. Like, I just completely was like, okay, this is something, I think there's a need. I'm having fun. I really loved like the dental office dynamics, and actually the crazy part, I was looking at the other day, so many of our early clients are still with us through a lot of growth, through a lot of changes. And, there's some of them that, I'm like, man, I haven't seen them in a long time, but like early on, just so tight in the relationships. So I think I was more enamored with the craft and the people than like thinking ahead, like, is there a market fit? Is there a strategy? Because I didn't know. I was just kind of like figuring out as I went. And, there's some things that make this industry really tough, dental IT. But, I didn't think early stage. Like, I didn't have like a business mind. I was just like, okay, this is something I can do, and just kind of was winging it until it actually became something.
I'll add something to that too, because
Yeah.
I feel like early on when I first started working at Medix, and people ask me, where you're working at these days, and I explain, Medix, and what do you guys do there? We just work with dental practices, do their IT. Like, oh, there's a business there. So I think early on, I think people thought maybe we're a little crazy for just focusing on that small. At that time, people thought small niche. When reality was, it's very large.
Yes.
Very large. Yeah.
It's interesting. I think if you look at where the business was when you started it and just wanting to solve a problem over the years, we can take dentistry in particular here. I think there are a lot of companies that have brought, products and services and companies to the marketplace that have made it way complex for a lot of host of reasons. And so I think it's interesting that pendulum is swinging back. You talk about niche. If you think about it now, I think that the companies that are focusing on a niche, it's a lot easier, right, for the dental practice to know specifically who you are, what you do, and all of those things. But Eric, I wanted to ask you on the topic of them knowing what you all do. Have you found in your role that there's a lot of practices that still don't know everything that you can do to help them?
Yeah, I would say so. It's tough because they have their daily lives and their focus of dentistry and the multiple hats that each of them generally wear from like an office manager's perspective or the business owner dentist. And that's what kind of our role is, to help with that. And that's why we try to get in place like quarterly sessions with them, little meetings, to help catch them up on what's new in our world, what they're not taking advantage of, what's options are out there, keeping our ear to the ground continuously, just to help educate. That's the core of what our team does, and our goal is with working with dental practices is education. We want them to understand and know the why behind decisions. We want them to understand and know the why around the investment into something, how it's going to help them. So they, some of them don't care. Some will be like, if you're telling me,
just fix it.
yeah,
Right.
just fix it.
Yeah.
And that's probably a smaller percentage these days. I would say now more so than ever, they more want to know the why behind it, want to know what this investment's going to do for them. We live in a world now of subscriptions. Everything's subscription based. Why am I going to pay this monthly subscription for this service or this platform or this third party? And the big piece of that is just, again, the education behind it. Help them understand it. And in the end, we can't say do it, but if we can help inform them on the pros and cons of it, at least it gives them now a more educated opportunity to choose if it makes the most sense for their business or not.
And Dave, this is you speaking as Dave, not as Chris,
Okay.
right? Just for clarification here. Love that we drew that line. It's been quite apparent that you have brought this people aspect to the business, this relational aspect to a lot of the work that you do. When you came on board, you had your experience with your company. What were some of the early things that you saw that you thought, okay, you've got these three individuals here, you've got the team, they've got their unique expertise, things are growing. What early on did you think you could bring to the table, and how has that helped over the years, you think?
Oh, man. I would say I didn't feel like I could bring anything to the table. Not to be self-deprecating, but I was very much, okay, cut that
Dave's
out.
very humble.
Yeah, no, so cut
very
that
much.
piece out. I'll tell you this. Tom told me within the first couple of months of coming to Medix, he said, just absorb for 6 months. And I didn't. I didn't listen to him. I probably absorbed maybe the second 6 months because that stage of the business was definitely a growth journey. But also we had a lot of things that still needed places to go. Does that make sense? We still needed to put things in their boxes. So as any business that's experienced true growth, as it really looks like on the inside, we love to put out there as people that there's this polish, right? And business is messy, So coming into Medix, I saw that we didn't have a true inventory system, right? So a lot of times if we needed something for a project, we would go into the prep room and we have a ton of inventory and we would just grab what we needed and go. And at that point, we couldn't truly measure, what was going out the door and what was, staying. And we weren't, I guess I'll say it, we weren't 100% always prepared for a project because something might have gotten taken out of, and this is just showing the real raw side of business, So now today, looking back, and this kind of swayed away from your conversation, your question, but I feel like now I get to see where we've come from and where we are today, and it gives a sense of pride, that maybe I was able to be a part of the growth journey, and like I was able to contribute. But I think if anybody comes in and says that they're going to contribute X, Y, and Z, they may not be the right person for the job, So the growth journey has really, for me, looked like step back and observe, pay attention. And if you have thoughts and opinions, you're not going to get fired for saying them, And actually, that's why you've been hired. You got hired to provide, your thoughts, your feelings, and even if you're wrong, right, to say it. And I've been wrong a number of times during this growth journey, but I feel like at least we all shared our opinions, and I think that's also what's strengthened the backbone of the company. So
it's a delicate balance, right? You have somebody new coming in. To your point, you want them to absorb everything. They're not going to know everything about the company, nor should they, or I'm sure you would expect them to. But then you also need them to be good in their lane, right? What it is that they're doing.
Yep.
So, I mean, obviously it sounds like a little bit of kind of like what it was like. I mean, obviously you saw a lot in him to bring him in and that he could provide value, but at the same time you had to absorb it. Is that how you're continuing to do things now? I mean, we're going to get into more of the expanded team that you guys have as you're continuing to support even more people than when you started. But what do you like to do now when you add new team members? Is it kind of the same approach to just absorb it?
Yeah, I mean, our team's built out a lot of like training materials and like onboarding materials. And one of the things I constantly hear when I talk to a new employee is that they always say, I've never been to a company where everybody wants to help. Yeah. And they see that really quickly. And I think we've also coined a term, that it's a lot of employees that join our team come from a bad environment. They don't quite believe that our environment is what it is. Like Dave said, everybody's encouraged to share their ideas. I always say the only bad ideas are the ones that aren't shared. It doesn't mean we can do something with them or we're going to use it, but I encourage like new ideas. And if you see something being done a certain way and it doesn't make sense, question that. Mm-hmm. So those are things that I feel are important. I still want them to be, observing, taking in and absorbing everything, but at the same time, like we want to give them, all the tools they need to get started, but then just encourage them to look at things differently and, share any kind of thoughts or ideas they have to make the company better.
Yeah. Well, even I just would add a little note to that is just not even just like specific roles when they come into. We encourage them to shadow other roles in other departments because it's important for us. We feel for them to understand, the different departments and what they do and who they are as people too. Just because sometimes in companies we see like walls can go up, and at times we've kind of seen them too. But we try to hash that out to bring them back down because we feel it's so important because for us to be successful, we have to be cohesive as a team. So we see that work well too. It's just the shadowing and just getting the kind of the one-on-ones with different team members of different departments to just really kind of help pull what we do all together.
Chris, I wanted to ask you just about IT in general. Like you made a comment on individuals that come to Medix maybe had an experience in the IT world that was not favorable, and so they have their guard up. What is it about this industry that you've learned over the years that carries that frustration, I guess you could say, with this type of work?
That's a great question. I mean, I think just IT in general it can be a very thankless job. So like, to Tom's point earlier, I mean, people aren't typically calling in because they want to say hi. How's your day going? Especially
you guys are doing great.
Right.
We sent you cookies. They're on the way.
It does happen sometimes, and it means a lot.
Thanks for blocking all that malware, the phishing attempts.
Yeah.
Right. So it's it can be
Now we're
very
getting some IT speak.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. There's more.
Yeah, and I can relate because, and Tom can too, is because and Dave as well, because we have IT backgrounds, so I think that's what helps me kind of do well in my position now because I was in basically every position in the company for the most part as we grew the company. Mm-hmm. So I can relate in a lot of different scenarios and a lot of different positions in the company. So I think that's what helps me do my job well. But it's just, I think it's just an industry thing, IT industry thing. It's it can be a very thankless, people are, especially in ours, like dental offices, they're calling in and there's submitting tickets because they have a patient in a chair or they have somebody checking out and there's something going on. Where a lot of other businesses, they can submit a ticket, but it's not urgent. It doesn't need to be happen in the moment. Whereas again, ours is like, 9 out of 10 times there, it's high priority.
Yeah.
So that can create a lot of stress, and that's felt throughout the IT industry from the service desk, help desk side. So I think what we try to do for our company that is probably different is that we're really stringent about like 8 to 5, because that 8 to 5 period can be very stressful, and you push people past that limit, that's when burnout and stress starts happening. So we're very conscious about our team members, not being overworked and things like that. I think that is probably something different than some other companies too. And I think that's where a lot of the stress and burnout comes from in the IT space, is just that stress of solving problems constantly
And
at a high level.
If they do go past that time, we have a system in place so they take that time off, because it's, it gets to be really heavy. And I think there's a stigma to IT too.
Right.
Like,
Absolutely.
and I think what a lot of people are used to is working with other IT people that are know-it-alls and like, no, this is mine. This is very territorial. And we see that a lot with the small IT companies too. But everybody here, like we hire people based on their culture fit for us first and foremost. Their technical and expertise is part of it too, but first and foremost, are they going to fit our culture? Are they going to fit, are they going to be Medix people? And that's what we truly hire for. And I think that's what's allowed us to continue to have a very strong people first culture as we've grown.
Eric, you mentioned it, that over the years, the dental practices didn't necessarily want to be as educated. They just wanted you all to solve the problem. But as time has gone on, it sounds like more and more of these practices want to understand the why. And I was thinking about today and having this conversation with all of you. There's a lot of parallels between what you all do and what the dentist does. And what I mean by that is, as you know, for years, dentists and the hygienists, they're technical, they're scientific, they're presenting to a patient that they have to get treatment done, they're speaking in dental speak, and then patients don't move forward because they can't really understand that the dentist wants to help them get care. They're mystified by the language. Right. And I see the same thing with you all, right? I mean, I see it very easy for an IT company to go into a dental practice and start slinging around all of these technical terms in an effort to look like you know what you're talking about, only to lose them.
Yeah.
So what has that transformation been? Like, what have you all experienced over the years to why you think more dental practices, really kind of two-part question, have wanted to become educated more? But then more importantly, what have you guys done to kind of, let's just say it what it is, dumb it down so that they can understand a little bit of what you guys are all doing, and then they can be involved in the process, bought in?
No, it's a great question, because the reality is we've never worked to get there. That's how we've always been. Like, I always kind of joke with people is, I'm going to talk to you like a normal human and explain this to you from a non-technical point, but if you want to get technical, I can pull in the nerds and they will get as geeky as you want. But that's just not how I do things. And that's honestly like our team too. Like, we're talk to them as if they don't know IT. So we're not coming in speaking the technical jargon. Now with some groups and some of these larger organizations, they want to hear the lingo. They want to dive deep. They want to talk about everything in Azure and the cloud and everything that goes along with it. And that's when I pull these guys in, because that's more their world and they can speak it, and I kind of know my place. But the reality is I think it's important for them to understand it. So you have to speak in their language. So a lot of times we try to use dental analogies because that hits the home the most for them, is when they can hear it in their world. So whenever we can incorporate any type of dental analogy into why we're recommending something or why something isn't working the way they feel like it should, and the resolution to get there, it seems to help a ton.
Dave, Tom mentioned that you all have some dental practice and some customers that have been with Medix since the beginning.
Yeah.
And so from your perspective, why do you think they continue to stay?
Well, I think Eric mentioned this earlier that, Tom hasn't changed, the entire time. He's had some growth journeys on his own too, as we all do in life. But, Tom has been always around and always available. So we do have some partners that still ask to talk to Tom. We try to shield him from that. But the effects of Tom being who he is, and this is not just a brown nose you hear, Tom, but
Keep going. Keep
the
going.
effects,
Keep going. Let's go,
the
baby.
effects
Open
of
forum.
having Tom, always around and still available is just immeasurable. So these people that knew Tom when he was the only guy, running around, and then they knew Chris, and it's just kind of felt like nothing's ever changed. So, and I hope that's, we've gotten better, but I feel like I hope the message is that we're still the same company that can still provide the level of attention to detail that these practices are calling on us for. And I feel like that is our effort,
How have you done that?
Well, I don't know. No.
When he's done, I want to have the notes.
I want to actually credit Chris on an idea. So one of the things we encountered as we were growing is that sometimes our practice has been with them for a while. They're like, I feel like I'm calling and getting somebody new each time. It's like somebody I've never talked to. Mm-hmm. And so we're like, oh man, because we don't want it to be call center style. We don't want it to be, we want to keep that intimacy that we have. And so Chris came up with the pod idea. So what it is a group of support people, support team members, engineers that service a fixed amount of clients, basically, practices, our partners. So what happens is that, even as we grow, we just create another pod, and the practices get to know the same group of people they're working with on a regular basis, and vice versa for our team. And it's been able for us to, maintain that intimacy we've had when we were smaller. And, we've been very, very fortunate to have good team retention, and that also plays into it, because it's not new people all the time. When we add people, we tend to move some people from pods into other pods just to bring in some tribal knowledge and some experience in the Medix way. But I think that's been a good part of it. And also just, we've had incredible partner practices of, part of it's just them, being understanding of the growth, but also being comfortable to say hey, this is something that I've noticed that's different. Mm-hmm. And we listen to that. And just like earlier this year, we sent out surveys and followed up with some of our older clients to really just, get an understanding of how they're feeling and with personal follow-up. I reached out to some of them that had concerns and just, talked to them. And it's stuff like that, I think, has contributed to the fact that they're still staying with us. And I think in a lot of ways we've been able to get better as we've grown. There've been little moments while we're transitioning, but overall, I feel like we've gotten a lot stronger. We're not perfect. We'll never be perfect, but we're always trying to improve. And I think they'd understand that. And we try to make that clear. We may make a mistake, but we're always going to make up for it 110%. And, one of the other parts is that we always encourage our clients, our practices, to see us as an extension of their organization, of their practice. And some of them do that. And when they do that, it's just we're another team member of theirs. And that's the ideal scenario, because it's it's not we're just a vendor. We're part of what they do. But some of them are just oh no, you're just our IT vendor. And that's just how they want to handle it. But we really encourage the practice partners that we work with in the groups, to see us as an extension of their team. And then the dynamics are different than it's just, vendor partner. But we do have some practice partners that see us that way, and that's okay. That's what they want. But as long as we can, the tighter our relationship is with them and the closer we are with them, I think plays into, how long they stay with us.
I want to go on a little bit of professional/personal development. When I think about this space, I think about IT. It's an endless canvas, right, of learning new things and the changes, and especially, as you all know, technology in the dental practice now is just exploded. And I think we have to get to a story about a pan here, which we will pretty soon, which we'll talk about. But on a serious note, Chris, for all of you, when you're leaders in the business, you traditionally hear there's, time that you spend working in the business and working on the business. Very apparent that you all have had to work in the business, but as it's grown and scaled and you've built this leadership team, you've had to focus a lot on the business. What are some things that you've done professionally and personally over the years to make sure that you're always staying on top of like, you know, your role, the things that you need to learn in this space?
Yeah, that's a good question. I heard from somebody a long time ago that they say you can't see the ingredients when you're inside the bottle, and that kind of stuck with me forever. So it's stuck with me forever. So it's something that I try to focus on and the ingredients for us is our team. I mean, in a lot of ways. So you know, as we've grown, we've developed junior leaders and leaders throughout the company that have really helped maintain our relationship-driven approach. You know, and to your point, things change in IT in general all the time, let alone dental. So not only are you dealing with changes specifically in our dental niche, I mean, there's just IT technology changes that are constantly happening that we have to adapt to. So, I mean, for us, for me, it's attending conferences. It's attending these different events to learn what's happening along with these guys next to me. Is it learning what's new, what's coming? We're very vendor partner driven too, so we have a ton of great relationships with different vendors out there. So we try to maintain those relationships and build those so we can stay in front of the changes that are coming too, because they'll reach out and say, hey, this is coming, or whatever it might be. We get invited to their events to learn about new things coming with their software, things like that. So that's how we kind of stay ahead of those things. And then we try to, you know, we do a lot of different things internally to try to cascade that down to our team. And that's through, to Tom's point, we have a great platform internally for training. It's called Trainial, that we try to fill as much as possible with information. Things like that is our ways that we're trying to stay ahead of the curve in this industry.
Can I add a little to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things that it's kind of an ugly truth about dental, but dental is behind a lot of other industries when it comes to technology. So we spend time outside the dental and to stay ahead, to look at what's in the forefront, and then we use our dental experience to kind of merge and to know where we can push without compromising, consistency of service. So, example is like, we've deployed a lot of things in Azure, infrastructure in Azure to make a serverless dental practice. But for whatever reason, the vast majority of our peers in the space don't touch that. Like, they are still doing the old on-premise in every shape chance they get. So it's just, we're trying to look ahead around the corner for IT in general, and then adapt it to what dental can support now. And I think that's allowed us to be kind of unique in the space and help them take advantage of mature technologies externally, but without losing the stability. And I think, it's, Chris continuously and our team continuously gaining knowledge. And I think we have a lot of passionate people that outside of work, and I'm guilty of this too. And my wife's like, how do you spend all day on the computer and then spend all night on the computer? But I really love it. So it's like they they get done working, and then they're messing around with technology and cloud and all the cybersecurity stuff, like just trying to better themselves because they're really passionate. And that's a key thing for a lot of our team members, is just a genuine passion for technology.
You kind of have to be, right? I mean, I think anybody that's good at their craft, loves their craft, they're spending tons of time on it. Mm-hmm. And there is a mild level of obsession, which I think is a delicate dance.
Yeah.
However, when I think about a dental practice and the expectation they have of all of you, I'm sure that's comforting. And then there's another parallel I just thought about. I think finally, a dentist and a hygienist would be the ultimate people to ask this, but I spoke with a periodontist years ago who said the oral systemic link, like this connection between like our mouth and our body, has been there forever, right? Everybody in dentistry has known about it, but helping their patients understand the importance of that and the impact of that, it feels like it's finally starting to like resonate a little bit. And when I think about the work that you all do, there are a lot of, you made me think about this, there are a lot of security issues inside of a dental practice that also could be some major aha moments that maybe over the years a dental practice didn't take the work that you all did seriously, but it's changing a lot. So I don't know if any of you guys want to add to that, of just like, it's like, hey, we're here to help you with these basic things, but oh, by the way, do you understand the exposure that you have with all your patients' records and all of those things, which I would feel like has brought you guys even that much closer to the practice.
Mind if I dive into this one.
I knew you were
Whoever.
going to
I mean, right? I mean, but this is a.
You get to start.
Just don't leave out
Yeah.
the biggest one that they overlook, which is their users.
Yeah. I mean,
Their
that's,
team members.
We're going to get into this. I
yeah.
think it's important.
The thing that we've battled for a long time, because we've been ahead of the curve on cybersecurity. We're the first national CE provider in cybersecurity in dental. Is really educating the staff. Like, part of it is their user habits and how they use the computer, but the other part is just like the fight between security and efficiency. A lot of times practices, leave everything logged in, and a patient can just hop on and browse around. If they have kids now, they're so competent, they just figure stuff out. But that's just, I think education is the biggest part. Like, we offer cybersecurity training awareness for our practices, and the amount that actually take advantage of it or sign up for it, it's like low cost, extremely low cost, is nil to none. We used to include it for free, and nobody used it. And so then we found a better partner with better content, and it's consistently updated. It's just not prioritized. And so we've had to build, and I feel like we have the most comprehensive security stack of any MSP in the dental space, to minimize the likelihood of something based on the user habits. So that's the hard thing that as we're trying to push the education, we can only put so many tools in place without compromising their efficiency or their ability to function. So it's a very delicate balance, but I think education and of their users of the practice, I mean, they are, we could build Fort Knox, they can put that in place, but they can still open the door, So I think ultimately that's the education is the area where the industry is lacking.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, as you all know, in situations like that, something has to happen.
Yeah, to scare them into.
Yeah.
I was just going to add that exact same thing. I think there was the idea, and this has felt throughout different industries too, but in dental, that there's the idea that it's not going to happen to me, right?
Right.
And then there was the event, I want to say it was a year ago or two, but the Change Healthcare event where it affected the dental practices, and they saw it firsthand that, wow, this ransomware thing happened, and it's affecting me. I think there's been more a peak of interest and concern, not where it still needs to be by any means, but there's more listening to us about, hey, this is what you need to do since that event. So it does take something like that, I think, or it has taken something like that for them to start actually listening.
And I think too, in our space, there's a lot of these small IT providers that are servicing dental. The vast majority of dental is still small IT providers. And, they may have some tools in place, but they also are part of the problem because they don't have the robust security structure we do. I mean, we have a team managing that with the CISP, certified person leading that. We're doing tons of stuff proactively. And a lot of these smaller IT providers, just because they're so focused on the solving of the problems in their small team, they don't have the resources to dedicate to making sure that behind the scenes and the proactive things are done. And that's something that we've been very, very strict about. Like, these things have to happen. We have to be on top of these things because that's where these vulnerabilities are created. So, I try to educate, because a lot of the doctors think, oh, my IT company's got it taken care of. They just put blind trust in that without understanding really what's there. And it's not necessarily bad intentions on these small IT providers. They just don't have the resources. Right. But again, this is probably going a little off topic, but there's like a little bit of a race to the bottom. That's just like, I don't want to pay this much for IT. I don't want to pay this much. So then these IT providers, the smaller ones, are like, okay, well then this is what we can do at that budget. Yeah. And so what we've just learned is that we just have to include all these things and do all these things no matter what, because it impacts us as much as it impacts them. And then just having discussions with some dentists, like one's like, he said, well, why do I need to worry about that? These things are happening all the time. So, just like, I said, well, do you know what it's like to go through one of those? Do you want to have to field these calls from your patients? Do you want to, tell them that because of something you didn't do, that their children's information is now publicly flying around because you don't want to pay $50 a month, And so it's a little bit of a battle, but again, we have people all the time like, well, our IT provider says, this is all we're going to charge. And we're like, well, that's fine. But there's a reason they're charging that little. There's some shortcut they're taking behind the scenes, and we won't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. How do you think, Dave? I mean, it's a big task. Obviously, it's been a big task in dentistry. How many years dentists and their teams have been talking to their patients about prevention, and you do these things, you do these things, and what have you, and it's like it's one of the hardest things for I think all of us as human. It's habitual. What are some things from your lens that you think you all are doing, or some things you can do to stress with the industry and the practices that you guys serve, how important this is?
I have a good answer for that, actually, because I was thinking about this while Tom was talking, and your question plays right into it. But to answer that question, I kind of take a look at the dynamics that got us to where we are today. So 1,000-foot view, let's dial it back a number of years to paper charting. Okay. So we've gone from paper charting. There's actually still some practices out there that do paper charting, no joke. But you think about that. So now fast forward, we have technology. We have computers. We have, all these practice management systems that can help. Instead of doing paper charting, now we've got digital. And that's great. That's another step. One of the biggest things now I feel like that's impacted our world was the pandemic, right? So the pandemic caused a lot of costs to go up. Of course, like dental care is healthcare, right? So, and we understand that, so because we protect it all the time. But fast forward, now everything's expensive. My main point is that complacency is no longer an option. So you asked the question earlier, why are they paying attention? Why is this that they're so involved now as office managers and office staff and dentists? Why are they so interested? It's because their hand has been forced. And that's the truth. So their hand is forced to manage and monitor costs. They're running businesses too, just like we are. And to that end, there's a lot of things that are now coming and hitting the market, like AI, right? Everybody wants to talk about AI, and it's great. And there's going to be a lot of efficiencies that come out of this that help these dentists to continue to run these successful businesses that they've invested their lives into. And I think that that's fantastic. So again, starting from paper charting to where we are today, we've seen a ton of change in the industry. And you can't ignore that. So when offices are faced with higher costs, they have to be focused on the bottom line while still providing the health care that they promise to their patients. So
I've always believed that in any industry, any niche, the companies that are acting as true leaders are comfortable to go out and say, listen, you might get frustrated at us. We understand that this might cost you a little bit more, but we're very passionate about this, and we're going to draw a line in the sand, and this is the flag that we're going to carry.
Yeah.
Are you guys there? Like when you're having conversations with people, are you at a point you've seen enough, you've experienced enough, you know what's going on behind the curtain to be comfortable to say, hey, like we're gonna make sure that we're always hitting home with this.
Yeah, definitely. And I think whether you're independent practice, small group, or DSO, you can come to us, and we've had so much experience that we know the problems you have. Whether it's even beyond IT, operational, project management, we anticipate all the things because we've been exposed to all the things. And so, there's certain things that we just draw the line at. And, for us, I mean, we're picky about who we work with. And, it goes into our decisions. We've let clients go that most people would probably think we're silly to, but didn't align with our culture, didn't believe in the value we're adding. And it wasn't until we were gone that they realized, okay, there was a reason. And I think for us, there's, we don't want to blend in with the crowd. We don't want to do what everybody else is doing. So we keep pushing it and drawing the line a bit. And I think, that just means certain practices aren't going to work with us, but that's okay. We want to do things the right way and to a certain level. And that's our minimum threshold.
So last night I coached my son, 4th, 5th grade boys basketball. And at the end of practice, my father-in-law, who's the assistant, went around and was asking each one of them, what was maybe one mistake they made. And it's always interesting, right, to ask people those questions, because some people jump right in and they're able to say, oh, like I made this mistake, like you mentioned to it. For others, it's a little bit harder. But obviously, you all have got to the point you're at where your customers trust you. You've learned it's an ever dynamic business. Eric, I'll start with you. Like, what are some of the things over the years, mistakes, that either you have made but have been big learning lessons from you that have, helped you gain even more confidence with some of the work that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's actually like one of the foundations of one of our core values, like the pursuit of excellence. It's a mindset thing. It's the drive to always get better. And how do you get better is you got to take that criticism with it. You want it. Like we crave it. I crave it. I want people to tell us how we can do better. I want people to fill out the surveys that we send out on all the tickets we do and projects we do, because that's really the only way we can continue to better our best. And a lot of people do take advantage of that, and we do. We have internal meetings about it. That's the beautiful thing about what people don't see behind the scenes with us, is that we take these things seriously. Like, we don't want those mistakes to happen again. Right. We are talking about it internally to figure out how to avoid it again, if we can. What do we need to do? Do we need to change processes? Do we need to invest in different software? Do we need to offer different things? I mean, there's just a lot of discussions that go into it. And for us, like the pursuit of excellence, that mindset, it's not necessarily a goal, it's a daily habit in our world.
And Chris, it's one thing to strive towards that. We're all human, right? It's never easy. I think it says a lot about all of you and the culture that you've created, that you do embrace that, but it doesn't mean it's easy.
No,
So,
no,
I mean,
not at all.
like what's it been like over the years to kind of pull the curtain back on a culture that is the pursuit of excellence, and maybe some of the challenges that it's been in order to be able to kind of be okay with that?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I mean, patience is a virtue there for sure, right? So, not expecting perfection, but expecting understanding and movement forward. I guess the best way I can say it is that we don't expect, like Eric said, we don't expect perfection. It's to Tom's point earlier, it's about finding the right people on the front end. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of slow to hire because we want to find the right people. So it's getting the right people in first, and then letting them know that they can make mistakes, and then learning from them. And I mean, we've all made mistakes. I've made mistakes back in the day, some bigger than smaller, and
I still do every day.
Technical, non-technical.
I'm still there, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's the bigger problem is not talking about it, and that's something that we try to encourage, is that we expect people to make mistakes. We don't want them to happen, but the expectation is they're going to happen. And it's whether we're talking about them and learning from them, to everyone's point here, versus let's just shove that underneath the rug and never talk about it. So encouraging conversation is our big thing around that, I guess.
Tom, what is one thing as you've grown this business that has really surprised you? Meaning that you all have grown to a certain point, you've got a great team, you're growing, you're serving a lot of customers. It's very, very, I know, detailed work. It's like you mentioned earlier, it can be very stressful work. What is one thing, from your perspective, as starting this company, that you look back and you're like, wow, like I never would have expected that when we got to this point that this is what it would be like?
I think and I don't even know how to phrase this, whether it's a blessing or a curse, but we all still feel everything. We all still care. So when there is something that happens with a client, regardless of whether it's a technical issue, a mistake we make, or something that happens in the client's personal life, like we still feel it, and our team feels it. And I kind of thought, at a certain size, we'd be a little more isolated, or I'd be a little more isolated, and it's not. And I'm good with that. Like, I think it's important. And even if we double in size, I think it's important to still feel that, because then that ensures that that the human part is still intact, but also that we take action and we do the things. And some of the, because a lot of our partners have been with us so long, we've been through a lot of like life experiences with our partners, deaths, tragedy, all kinds of things that, go above and beyond or unrelated completely to IT. And, it's just, I think the fact that we've grown and we still feel everything, that's surprising to me, because I think a lot of companies get to a certain point and leaderships get to a certain point where they just isolate themselves. But, Chris, Eric, and I have been doing this for so long, but we still feel it. And like, it's hard to kind of explain, but sometimes you wish you didn't feel.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah. But I feel it's a necessity for who we are.
Yeah.
I think it's a great message. I think anybody that's watching this and learning from your journey that wants to scale, I think it's interesting that you bring up that you thought there would be a time that through that scale you'd be able to kind of pull yourself away from that, but you never really do. You know, as large as it gets.
I was going to add something to that too, because I think something that's unique for us is we have an internal process at Medix that if anyone on the team encounters, like we do a lot of stuff and a lot of it's remote, right? So when a partner goes out of their way to help us troubleshoot something, we'll send them something, a thank you. If we hear about something, like to Tom's point, if we hear about something that happened maybe in their personal life, we'll send them something. That's cascaded through the organization. So we have a process in place. If they are on a call and they encounter something, hey, fill out this thing and we'll get them something, whether it's flowers, whether it's candy, whether it's whatever. So I think that's a way that we've instilled from the get-go and carried that through how we've scaled that relationship-driven environment that we want.
I love it.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the future a little bit, right? We've kind of gone back and talked about the story. Dave, I'll start with you. When you look out of the next couple of years from your perspective with where you sit in this organization, what are you really excited about?
I think to Tom's point earlier on the pods, shows that we've not only had our hands forced, right, to want to continue to maintain that culture, but I'm looking forward to how we get creative even more in the future on maintaining that positive 100% personal approach. To add on to Chris's point, where we have, even gone to the effort of just making it personal for the people on the other end of the phone. We've even sent, things like personalized like gifts to where a doctor had retired. I remember one situation, and he was a fisherman. The guy, he loved being in the chair, but ultimately his passion was to be out just casting a line, and we ended up sending him some fishing gear. And I just thought, like, that's the kind of company that I not only want to work for, but I just would like other companies to be like, and I get to work with that team. So, I mean, we're not just out here trying to, prevent viruses and malware and ransomware, but we're in the trenches with the people that we support. So what I look forward to answer your question, is just more of that. More of we keep talking about humanizing the IT experience. Well, it's really just the same thing in any company. It's not just dental IT. It's, what did somebody say one time? They said, business is easy until you involve people, right? Well, yeah, that's true. Like, we all have our own internal dynamics and things like that we bring to the table, and you don't know what somebody's going through, in their own personal lives or in their minds. So I look forward to us finding creative ways to continue to maintain that positive approach and feel that we have with our partners and our internal team today.
Eric, what are you excited about?
I'll echo that, but also just, I don't know, just our reach. Just having that foundation of educating people. I don't know. I just love it. I love talking to people. I love being able to share what we know. And like having our 20 years of doing this, 16 personally, is just taking that experience and just sharing it and being able to educate more and more dental practices or groups and just helping them along their journey to help them maybe alleviate a hurdle, that if we can help them avoid it because we've seen it, and then that they trust us enough to believe in it, to listen to what we're saying and then see it come to fruition. I don't know, it gets me excited. It makes me happy. I love telling those stories at the end of the day. My wife, I get home every day, my wife says, how's your day? I love sharing stories like that. Oh my gosh, we were able to complete this, or so-and-so reached out because they're so happy this got taken care of, or we had this bad event take place, but our team hopped on and got them back up and running within an hour. Like, and I'm married into dental. My wife's an office manager, so like I don't ever really escape dental. But it's nice when I'm able to have these conversations with her, though, because she gets it too. So I mean, in our world, it helps because she gets it, living in it, but also I can get her feedback from things too, which is just nice. But it's really just getting our information out. We haven't done a ton of marketing. We haven't done a lot of things to let people know who Medix Dental is. So I'm excited about doing this with you, and hopefully people are watching this and just believe in it and just give us a chance. Just talk to us, because what you see is what you get. We're going to talk to you. We're going to share what we can do and how we're going to do it, and you can decide if it makes sense for your practice or not.
Yeah, it's a great message. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the key, is what Eric just said. Is like, how do we get people practices across the country, groups across the country, to realize that this isn't a smoke show over here, right? This is who we are. And we don't...
Smoke show as in like all attractive guys? Or like smoke
tall, attractive guy. No, not at all.
I mean, that is an amazing shirt, by the way. I haven't told you that. We've gone an hour and a half, and I just want to note that. Sorry, just go ahead.
No, you're good.
She picked it up.
Lindsay, the office manager, wonderful wife of this man right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, that's the most exciting thing for me is how do we extend our reach? How do we get practices and people to believe what they're hearing and seeing at conferences and the way that we're talking to them? That's not just lingo for the conference.
Yeah.
That's just who we are.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, a big reason why we're different than a lot of other companies out there. I'm super excited to get that reach out there further.
How about you?
I echo all their things, but I'm going to go way different direction. I'm kind of a wannabe futurist. And so looking at what's in front of dental right now, the problems they have, is helping kind of be their Sherpa on adapting to the new things as they're coming. And as I mentioned, dental being behind the times, I spent a lot of time in other segments researching like the implementations of AI. And I'm pretty quiet on LinkedIn, but a lot of times I see people posting about AI and dentistry, and I'm just sitting there and like their perspective of it. But they are completely shielded from what really is happening in AI. The future is a lot further along than they know in their understanding. So there's a huge gap of where it is and where it can take the industry versus what they understand and what they see now. So I feel like in addition to our role as their technology partners, we have to guide them through that and take them through those journeys and not be in a scenario like what I see a lot of dental now is, they see a product and they're like, yeah, we want that. But start with a problem, start with the challenge, and then look for the technology to solve it. But a fight we fight, especially with the groups and DSOs, is they want to adapt all these things on, but their foundation is not solid. So they want to build the Taj Mahal on a weak foundation. So as I'm trying to be a futurist, I'm also like saying, to get there, you have to slow and fix the foundation. Then you add the things to solve the problems. But again, it's like, they have their initiatives and they want to do these things. It's like the right way, the way that's going to give them longevity is to solve the foundation and then adapt the technology. But again, I'm just really passionate about what's coming and what I see in other spaces that can eventually be implemented on the dental side. And there are a few exceptions in the dental space that are really out there thinking that far ahead. But there's also a lot that are just trying to generate revenue off the term AI. So,
Well, I'm a little biased. I think more Tom on LinkedIn, more Tom talking about the future of AI and IT and anything that you can do to educate this industry, I think you should.
We joke around internally about, when he needs to start Tom Talks.
Yeah, Tom Talks.
I mean, yes, I'm all for that. And obviously today is just a kickoff of being able to capture all of you individually and a lot of the things that you're talking about. And the last thing I wanted to ask each of you is a fun little story, right? When you kind of look back at where you guys have come from, obviously you're very close. And I know last night we were talking a little bit about this Pan episode. I thought that'd be a good place to start. I don't know if you, speaking for Dave, speaking for Tom, want to talk about it, or where you guys want to go, but we have to get this out.
That could get interesting if we went that way, but it's kind of a shared story, so I'll start it, and Tom, you can add.
Well, I almost died, so we'll put it that way.
Okay, it's great.
Chris saved my life.
Yeah. Okay, and
I mean, the small towns that Tom and I and Eric visited back in the day.
Still do.
You name it, in small town Iowa, Nebraska, Minnesota. I mean, we were probably there at some point. But this story takes us to
Redwood
Falls, Minnesota. And Tom and I were there doing a computer refresh. And, I think I might have found out on the way up there maybe that Tom agreed that we would move. This practice was getting a new pano in the next week or so. And Tom said, yeah, we'll be up there doing the computers. We'll just, and they must have mentioned something about they're getting this. And Tom said, we'll take care of that. We'll move that to the basement for you. And it was an old pan.
Really old.
Yeah. I mean, it was
old. Like more than 100-pound pan.
Yeah. I mean, we found that out later, but yes. The story goes, I was up front doing configuration stuff, all the things IT. And I think I was actually on the phone with my wife while I was doing it too. And all I hear is this yell, scream from the back, help. And I was like, what is happening? What is happening here? So I hang out with my wife and I run back, and I think Tom's like this, trying to hold this pan up because there's a giant lead weight in it that weighs like 300 pounds. I
I'm
don't
holding
know.
it with my head. And,
Right.
like the whole pan head was on my head.
Yeah, so-
The counterweight had I basically disconnected, so all the weight shifted onto my head. And it's like my spine was compressed and I couldn't do anything.
Just picture you there, just like
Yeah,
shaking.
yeah,
trying to
and-
hold it.
And then Chris came to my rescue, and somehow we were able to get me out of there and set it down. And we did end up carrying that thing.
We did. We got it in the
to the
basement.
basement. We had to carry it outside and then down to the basement. But yeah, that was at that point we're like, no, we're not removing pans ever.
Right.
It's no longer a
No,
service.
not our job.
That is the piano story.
The one time.
Right.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Dave, any when you look back and any funny stories? I mean, I realize I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but anything that just kind of pops to mind about this group, the company, anything?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's a couple that I probably shouldn't share publicly. I mean, it's not that it's terrible, but it's just like,
There's only a million
Let's
more
not
people
discuss
watching, so
that.
you're
Yeah,
good.
safe space.
as far as funny, I mean, we've had a ton of opportunities, not just with the four of us, but with our team, and I can't think of one specific, but I think what I love the most is that our team continues to feel like they can be themselves, right? Like one time we had I keep seeing Nick Champagne. I don't know if I should say his name, but Nick, let's just say it. I keep seeing
It's
Nick.
names out there.
It's too late.
Yeah.
Champagne's
Yeah.
it's just a stage.
It's not as
name.
real.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I keep thinking of Nick, one of our previous employees, that we had an ice storm, and at this ice storm, if you in the Midwest, of course, or anywhere you get like a good ice storm, sometimes you can roll your car window down after you let it warm up for a little bit. And you can roll your window down, but the ice stays there. And, he thought it'd be funny to then bust his head through the ice and just ask, because we always say, did you put in a ticket? And for us internally, that means, nobody knows about it unless the ticket exists, right? So he busts his head through the ice and says, did you put in a ticket? And I just remember that went viral through our entire company. It was just so good, but it was a breath of fresh air, amidst the chaos that we have in our day-to-day lives of IT.
Yeah.
So I think that was a good moment for me.
Adds a whole new moment to the phrase, did you put in a ticket?
Yeah.
Did you put in a ticket? Yes.
I love it.
Super good.
So we're going to flip this around with brothers. Do you have a funny story about him, either work-wise
Oh, boy.
or growing up?
Can I pick the story? I'm just kidding.
Sure.
No, I'm not gonna.
Help me out. Do you want to go first?
Me? I can go first. I'll set the foundation.
I'm ready.
So everyone's different, but a little bit about me, real quick, is just I like to live each day to the fullest, and for me that means
I don't.
being myself. I can't say I don't care what people think, but a lot of times I don't care what people think. So if I want to be goofy, or if I want to dress up for a theme thing, or if I want to hop on a horse at a double event and pretend to ride it, Dykema, I'll do it because it's fun and it's in the moment, spontaneous, right? And just life's too short to just be normal, and that's just how my mind processes. So if I see opportunity for fun, or if I see opportunity for making someone laugh, I love making people laugh. And I don't always hit home runs. Sometimes people look at me like, why would you say that? Like, that's not funny. And there's strike.
I'm probably the one that's saying that. Why'd you say that?
My wife says it all the time. She's like, yeah, don't say that one again. But that's hey, you gotta throw it out there sometimes. But overall, my goal is I just like seeing people happy. So if there's moments where I can just be a little awkward or be a little unique, and that gets it there, then like that, I don't know, it's a win for me.
I love it.
But the funny story about him, he's dressed up in all kinds of costumes of his dental
yeah,
practices. But he also was on national TV as a leprechaun.
Oh yeah, Tom let me have creative freedom, and that's what I love about Tom early on. So, this is all right. I'll tell this one. It's a funny story, but I did this for a few years. Is early on, I was driving everywhere, just cold calling, walking in a dental office, which is the worst. I learned that right away. You just they get it all the time, so you don't do that. No one would ever talk to me. So, flip the script. The next year, I'm just like, all right, how do I get in front of people? I'm throwing on like St. Patty's Day, I'm wearing a leprechaun up and I'm going in. I made fake scratch. My wife made fake scratch tickets for me, so everyone won a keyboard. But it was like a lottery ticket. So I'd go in and gold chocolate coins, whatever. But every one office I went into that would never meet with me before met with me. Easter comes up. I got a bunny suit. I wore bunny suits into all the offices I wanted to meet that wouldn't meet with me. I got into every single one of them. They were taking photos with me. And they're like, oh, who's in there? I would never tell. I would always like, never say anything. I was like, I was in a costume. So I'd be like, oh, doing the whole. And then eventually I'd take it off and be like, oh, hey, Dr. So-and-so, like, you didn't meet with me 2 weeks ago, but you met with me today. Hopefully this like blocks into another meeting. Like, you got a good one.
Joke's on you.
Email me, I'll get back to you. I'm just kidding.
Right.
So I use one. It's just fun. It mixes up my day too, right? And again, it goes to my foundation. I love seeing people laugh. Every office I went into, I had the Easter bunny thing. I had the eggs and I had fun stuff in it. I would hand them out, big Easter eggs. But I literally, I don't know, a decade later, I had people telling those stories to me. Like, yeah, I still remember when you came into my office. My staff loved it. I'm just like, I kind of like kicked myself in the butt because I kind of got away from that. Like 5 years, 5 years doing it, I'm just like, is this getting old? But I kind of miss some of that sometimes. Even though I'm 43 now, it's just like, I kind of like one of these years, I kind of want to just
Bring it back.
and just surprise some of our OG partners that have been with us that just, I just miss seeing them too. But yeah, anywho, I'd like to do creative, fun things to mix it up.
But the story that Tom was getting at, I think, is so that St. Patrick's leprechaun outfit, it was March Madness in the Des Moines, Iowa area, and there was a regional or something that was playing there. Eric wears his leprechaun outfit to the event. I think he gets invited to some private. He gets there. Everyone's just loving
All the
it.
TV crews are interviewing me.
Everyone's just loving it. He gets invited to some private all-you-can-eat drink
Didn't plan any of that.
events.
Just
And he ends up being on national television. I don't know if it's ESPN.
I had friends
or-
from Chicago and Colorado texting me like, dude, I just saw you on TV. I was like, dang, I should have wore a Medix shirt. Dang it.
Yeah, it's the Medix Leprechaun. Yeah.
But that was fun. That was a fun day. That was a fun day.
You've been unmasked.
Been
People
unmasked.
know it was you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Any funny stories? Or you of him?
Oh, man. Man.
They don't play with firecrackers anymore.
Yeah, I don't know with like work related.
Doesn't have to be.
We'll leave it
Yeah.
at that.
No, that's not really funny. I was young. We're kids.
It's kind of funny now, but
It's kind of funny now. I'll tell it. You guys can edit it out if you don't think it's good. They.
I'll start.
I was in
I'll
seventh
start.
grade. I
I'll
was in
start.
seventh grade. He was a freshman in high school.
Don't, no, we're a lot younger than that, weren't we?
I don't know. Yeah, that's pretty young.
I thought you were younger than that. Now I think differently.
This was last week.
Yeah.
It was after the 4th of July. Just like I thought it'd be interesting to take a bunch of bottle rockets and firecrackers and make one firework. And things looking back, you learn from your mistakes. Don't put it in a glass
Talk about
container.
learning from our mistakes, right?
I put it in a glass container. Dumb. You don't do that. Plastic for sure. And I didn't make the wick long enough. Make the wick longer. But I made this thing. I got Chris like, hey, come in our backyard and let's do this together. And I literally lit the wick and it blew up. And it blew us to the ground. Like people heard it 2 blocks away.
We're lucky to be here.
That was the first and only time I rode in an ambulance. It was pretty crazy. Yeah, he had like a blood squirting out of his hand. His glass had gone in his hand, and my mom's coming up and just like, "What?"
And she was positive, right? She's like, today's a good day.
But at least we have it on record now that it was his fault.
It was my fault.
Right.
Got it.
So,
I believe that.
right. There we go.
Okay.
There we
Don't
go.
play with fireworks, kids.
Yeah.
It's not.
All right.
Yeah.
It's coming out.
Doesn't ever turn out good.
Right behind Tom's LinkedIn post about the future is going to be
Right.
that story.
Right.
I think we need to love
Yeah,
it.
drones now. Fireworks with drones only.
How about you, Tom? Or anybody on Tom?
There's enough, but I don't think anything worthy sharing. But there's a really positive story about one of our clients I would love to share.
Yeah.
So we've had a
Flip the script.
long-term partner at the multi-generational dental practice, Kegler and Aaron, and Dan and Vicky Kegler.
Great.
Incredible people. You can't.
Just good humans.
Yeah. I mean, they've been a part of not just us, our professional journey, but personal situations and things like that. It just, having this relationship. But we were at a Nebraska dental meeting, and there's a gentleman with us who was just visiting, and he had a dental construction company, and we're talking to him. And then we see in the distance Vicky and Dan Kegler come in. They're from Iowa, so we're like, oh, we were so excited to see them because we love them, and so we go over to see him, give a big hug, and then this guy with the dental construction company came up to him and he's like, hey, I don't know if you guys remember me. And I'm like, what's going on here? And then he goes and he explains him and his wife were in a car accident on a highway, and the vehicle was totaled. It was ice, and so nobody from their family could come pick them up. So they were in the emergency room and getting ready to be released, but didn't have anywhere to go, didn't have a car. So just happened to be Vicky Kegler, for whatever reason, was visiting the hospital. She overheard the story, invited them to their home to stay with them and feed them and whatever until their family could come get them. The roads were better. And one that didn't surprise me at all, but it was just this is just like a tiniest example of the character of these people. And that to me is like being part of that and having people like that in our lives as part of that. We wouldn't have known them without the business. It's just been incredible. And we have so many wonderful clients like that. Well, maybe not saints like them, but just wonderful people. And I think, at the end of the day, what my goal is to have the largest net positive impact, whether it's on our team or our partners, clients, whatever you want to call them. So that's, how do we spread that kind of impact, positivity. And, that's what we try to do every day. So.
Since you flipped it, I'll flip it back. But Tom used to wear a bunch of costumes back in the day, early on. Every Halloween he'd be wearing costumes.
No.
He, what else? He'd always send Randy, like even to this day.
Well, he used to, back when we were a smaller company, he used to host Halloween, Christmas parties at his
We do
house.
theme parties.
Right. Yeah.
We do theme parties.
Yeah,
Get
they
away
were
from
theme
that.
parties.
Just kidding.
And but then he'll randomly too just send random, like I'll just have a box show up at my house. Like I won't know who it's from, and it'll be something just outrageous. And I'm just like I have to like hunt down who sent me these things. And I get over time, I just realized I always go to him first. It's like, did you send this? Like, no. See, this smells like you.
I think one of the first couple of months that I actually worked at Medix, I had gotten an office, right? And I got my monitors set up, I got my computer and everything. I got my office just so. If you know me at all, I love the details. I love things just so. And I come in and my monitors were absolutely covered in Post-it notes. And I knew who it was. I knew, because Tom is like mischievous, but not in a dangerous way. He just likes to have a good time, and he's okay with it taking a little while for that joy to process. So he doesn't mind just dropping a nugget and walking away. So
Good stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah. Guys, it's been great. Thanks for taking the time, sharing your story. I know we're gonna talk a lot more today. The specifics, I think, for each of you, not only how you're helping a lot of the practices. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the customers that you guys have currently served, and then also, get into a little bit about, some of the growth aspirations that you guys have that we've talked about with kind of where dentistry is going, private practices, DSOs, and all that good stuff. So thanks for your time. This has been awesome, and excited for the rest of the day.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks,
John.
guys.